If you're not already doing smart kiosks, license plate recognition, collision avoidance in the tunnel, those are all areas to explore. And the other one that is emerging more in the car wash space that I want to spend a little bit more time on is predictive maintenance.
So let's start with OnLogic. Who are you? Why the car wash industry right now? And then if you could then jump into a little bit about your role on the team, why that teases us up so nicely to be here chatting about AI.
Absolutely. Happy to, Kendra. So, OnLogic is a global industrial computer manufacturer. And what we make is really customizable PCs that are highly configurable to particular use cases that are best deployed in harsh environments. So, our computers thrive where other computers will typically fail. So, that could be wide temperature ranges, lots of shock and vibration environments, dusty environments. So when you really need reliability, especially in things like remote installations as well, where you don't want to send folks out to be managing these computers all the time, that high reliability system that could thrive anywhere is really our specialty.
And I think there's no better place for the harshest environment than inside a car wash tunnel.
Absolutely, and so we are often the unsung hero. Like you said, your viewers here might not be familiar with us. Our systems really are used in so many different industries throughout the world, and so they're in manufacturing environments, they're in heavy equipment, outdoor mining operations, medical applications, building automation, and in car washes. It's extensible to all of these different types of environments. And where I really come in is particularly for artificial intelligence and automation is helping to work with customers to understand how they can utilize our systems and build solutions that can solve problems within their operations.
So let's talk a little bit about that infusion between AI and automation.
What's really interesting is, there's nothing new to the fact that you want to make your operations potentially more efficient and more productive. You might want to improve the customer experience that you have and how you're delighting your customers as they're going through your tunnel. And also, you have a mind, I assume many folks will have a mindfulness towards sustainability in their operations as well. How can you have the least impact on the environment, especially from a chemical and water usage standpoint? So, all of these challenges or objectives that you have for your organization are nothing new. What's new is that technology is continuing to advance to give you more options to automate that work or to make it smarter or change that experience. And so we at OnLogic like to, kind of envision that as looking like the car wash of the future. And how can you continue to, advance that and add features, add experiences that will actually delight your customer and or improve your bottom line.
If an operator or supplier was struggling with this idea of why invest, why now? If you were in front of either as an operator or supplier, how would you approach answering that why question for them?
Absolutely. Ultimately, you want to investigate and explore this now so that you're not left behind. It really is. Some of it is a differentiation strategy, but some of it is a keeping up strategy. And that's particularly why I'm so excited to talk in this industry in particular, because at OnLogic, I get to see how people are implementing AI and automation technologies in all sorts of different industries. And quite frankly, some of what we're observing is that the car wash industry is a little behind in leveraging these technologies. And so that's why I'm excited to say there's real opportunity there. There's some areas that are being implemented, some use cases that are being implemented quite readily in car washes. And so you can catch up there. But there's some other use cases that aren't being implemented in car washes yet, but are already being proven out in manufacturing, in mining operations, in other areas that it doesn't have to be this brand new science experiment. And in fact, that is one of the key points that I would have in talking to both the operators and the suppliers is I honestly wouldn't recommend starting with a science experiment. Start with something that is proven out either at the car wash next door or at that industry next door that you could leverage that as a near-term differentiator.
And what's so great too about our industry is we're set up to scale. And so the idea that if you wanted to start, somewhere, you just start at one site, or you start at one manufacturing plant, or you start with one, kind of piece of your chemistry suite. You build from there, and you don't have to worry about, biting off essentially more than you can chew.
Totally. Doing a proof of concept, doing a prototype is a fantastic way to test things out to see if they're actually working. In fact, I was just at a car wash last week, and I went through and I was approaching the kiosk. So I was excited to see that they had a kiosk. But as I got nearer, I saw that there was an employee standing next to the kiosk. So I rolled down my window, and he very gracefully asked me some questions, what I was looking for, and took care of everything for me. And I was like, I have to ask, why are you here instead of me just interacting with this? And his statement is that they had implemented these kiosks with the idea to make it easier for the customer and smoother, but it actually made it more difficult. There were a lot of people that were getting confused, that there was multiple things that you had to push before you can actually get to payment, that it was slowing down the tunnel and frustrating people. So instead, they've deployed people out there. And so I think that's a perfect example of why to do a proof of concept, why to do a prototype, so that you can work out those kinks, make sure you're truly getting the value you're expecting, and then roll it out across your different operations.
Sarah, why does the idea of AI feel so scary for people? Help me debunk the mystification behind why it's not scary and why it's something you should kind of maybe lean into a little bit.
I think it's really rooted in just the fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
and then where our imaginations can take us, of robots taking over the world. Like how quickly do you get to that point? And so for me, I kind of just liken it to what are those natural transformations that we've had over the past few decades of technology advancements, and how those we've adapted, we've understood how to use them, how to leverage them, and how to mostly mitigate some of the challenges that are there, right? And so that's just we've built we've built that muscle, and we just need to continue to apply that from AI and automation. And so what I think too is just, instead of thinking about it in this broad sense, what is artificial intelligence and how might that impact us? Let's break it down. Let's break it down into particular use cases. And I think as we're talking about those things, often the feeling that I get is, oh, this could really help me, or this could really make a better experience and delight my customer. And when you think about that, then it's not scary. It's just much more practical.
Once you've had a conversation with someone like you that just is a safe space to feel a little anxious and scared, and then you kind of debunk that, and I'm feeling good, but now I'm still in a position where I've got to get started. Tell me a little bit about, if you were in an operator or a supplier's shoes, but equally, where would you get started?
Absolutely. Whether it's AI or anything else, I always think you need to start with your objectives. So looking at what are you trying to accomplish? And for AI, what you can typically accomplish with AI and automation is improving your bottom line, whether you're increasing revenue or reducing costs. It is improving the customer experience and how you might delight them. And then it's also improving the sustainability of your operations. So first and foremost, think about where you want to focus. And if you have those objectives, any of those three or other objectives for your organization, then start thinking about how might artificial intelligence or automation help me achieve those things. And that's where you can start your research, is trying to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Now you can narrow down to what are these particular use cases, which we can talk about in a minute, that would actually be worthwhile to pursue. And then at that point, as you're getting those use cases, I would definitely be including in your search an interest for partners, right? Who might help you implement these things? OnLogic is one of those partners that could participate. And so if you're looking at OnLogic and want to dive deeper into from a resource standpoint, I would highly recommend looking at the site that we have as a resource for folks, which is carwashofthefuture.com. So looking there again could really give you some of those use cases to help you start getting started, as well as reaching out to us or others in the industry for that support.
Excellent. So now you've had the conversations, you've found the partner. So it sounds like there's very little areas of a business that this couldn't impact positively. You broke down a couple of those areas. Can you get a little bit more granular with us about some of those use cases like you mentioned? Let's talk about those.
Absolutely. So again, don't start with a science experiment. Start with more proven technology would be my recommendation. And so that to me is in two camps. The first camp is things that other car washes might be deploying today. And the second camp is things you typically aren't going to find in a car wash, but you'll find in other industries. So if we start in camp one, areas that other car washes are deploying, if you're not already doing smart kiosks, license plate recognition, collision avoidance in the tunnel, those are all areas to explore. And the other one that is emerging more in the car wash space that I want to spend a little bit more time on is predictive maintenance. How do you figure out if your car wash equipment is going to fail? Because the last thing you want is a line of cars waiting to get into the tunnel, and suddenly your equipment goes down. So you could basically, there's a bunch of different technologies out there that you could deploy for sensing failures. So different types of sensors that would track things like vibration, volume of dispensing, any of these different things. And then as you're applying artificial intelligence to it, it's going to look for trends and patterns to say, oh, this is an anomaly. So this is something, and the last time we had this, the last 3 times we witnessed this anomaly, your car wash failed, it totally shut down 3 days later. So you better schedule someone to come on out. Which is pretty cool. And so but again, even if people don't have these in car washes today, like this is happening out in the world. I have a great example, a customer of ours called FlashEye. Their sensing technology they're using is LiDAR, which is a light detection and ranging technology, which basically it sends out pulses of lasers. They bounce back. They're able to make this 3D map of what the environment looks like. And then they monitor that to say, ooh, something different is going on over here. And so they deploy this at mining operations. And so they can see this whole field and, oh, here's the conveyor belt with a bunch of rocks and other materials coming down. It's vibrating in a way that it doesn't typically vibrate. And that could cause safety issues. It could cause hours of downtime, which is obviously money when you have your whole crew out there working. So it can, again, create this sensor field where it's able to predict failures before it happens based on analyzing, again, all of that past information of things that have changed in the environment before and what's happened as a result.
Now, Sara, I know that so many of our chemical manufacturers, they have like that monitoring system for their chemistry, right? To be able to understand when things are low or things might be getting close to right. So would this be just like an enhancement of that? Would this work in concert with that? So if some of those things already exist, tell us about how these pieces are connected.
I love the chemical one because, again,
We're infusing even right now.
Absolutely. So monitoring the chemicals, yes, that's something that's pretty standard and that's out there today. Where now we're going into that second bucket that I was talking about, where what are people doing advancing this in other industries? And so one thing you could do from a chemical usage standpoint is how do you optimize what you should be using and when versus a let's turn it all on approach. So let's take a field trip, Kendra. Let's go to the farm field.
Oh,
Okay.
nice. I'm a farm girl. I grew up very familiar.
So we're on a tractor. Maybe a few decades ago, and we need to water, fertilize, somehow distribute spray liquid on our crops. And so, 10 years ago, we would do that on the tractor and just turn on the sprayers and go down the rows. And we'd be constantly spraying everything that we needed, but also a lot of what we don't need as well. Now there's technology where you can outfit your tractor with sensors or cameras to really identify when you need to actually when you actually need to spray. So you're going down that row and it's like, oh, we're at a crop, turn it on. And now, oh, we're at a gap. You can turn it off, you can stop spraying. And then we've got to another crop. Oh, this one's different and it requires a different mixture of chemicals. So we're going to give this particular dose that this plant needs and then move on from there. And so think about that. Now, field trip over. Field trip, now we're going to move to the car wash. So come with me there. And we now have cameras set up so that you can map the car before it goes into the tunnel. See, oh, okay, how large is the vehicle? What is the shape? What is the particular vehicle that's going in there? And how dirty is it? Or where are there certain concentrations of soil levels? And then as it goes through the tunnel, you can very, in particular, target where the sprayers are located, when they're turning on, what that volume and concentration is. So then you are using not too much, or even, sometimes you don't do enough and the car doesn't get clean. You can really optimize your chemical usage when you're really sensing that environment.
So we've gotten started, right? But I mean, the also kind of the bigger question too is why now? Why invest? Why make this decision? So we've convinced them that it's out there, it's not going away, and that they should lean in and accept this fate. Here's a couple ways to get started, but just as they think about kind of what the future holds and the benefits here, just like tell us a little bit from your perspective and what you've seen. Like if they don't start now, like you mentioned, getting left behind is a very real, is a very big reality for some of these companies. So like, what do they do next? Like now they have all this information, and like how do they jump in with both feet to be successful in this endeavor?
So I think, a natural first step is typically to do an overarching strategy, right? So what are the couple of use cases? And I do want to talk about more, so let's get to that in a minute, Kendra. Um, but what are the couple of use cases that you think are most relevant for your business? And start engaging with a partner, with a guide that can help really estimate what is that scope of cost in order to create that, but then also doing the due diligence to understand what value you predict you're going to get from that. So truly looking at the ROI to see if it makes sense. And then really, there's a lot of different factors in how feasible it is to implement, and a lot of different factors on the type of return and value you can get from that implementation. And partners like OnLogic or others can help step you through that to help you understand where should I really prioritize, in what order should I go after these things, so that I'm not either spending a lot of money and not getting value from it, or that I'm also not doing nothing while my competition is out there and leveraging these advancements and making their operations more productive, more efficient, gaining, becoming more profitable, or quite frankly, being more fun or helpful or value added for your customer, that then goes elsewhere. So it's really taking that time. It's not a lot of time. You could probably do this within 3 months to really do a real strategic evaluation of where you should be starting. But that's important, valuable time so that you're not wasting it down the road.
So Sarah, so chemistry was one kind of kind of rooted example. I know we've got a couple, like that might be actually the key is kind of we've got a few other we want to just kind of run through too, just in case someone listening in and they're hearing like, wait, this does keep me up at night. So we're gonna run through obstruction next, and then we're gonna go through like the pre-wash damage and the idea about like that scan and that dent detection. Ooh, fun. And then we'll talk about some of that AI troubleshooting. So let's go back to obstruction and make sure that we cover kind of these three. Because I think if someone's listening in, they may hear one of these. Chemistry might not be the one, but maybe one of these other three might. So go for it.
Okay, so the first one that you mentioned was obstruction detection. So, think about it. I'm busy. I'm running around. I decided I need to get a car wash. I'm about to go through and I forgot my snowboard's on the roof. Or somebody, has a pickup truck and there's something in the pickup bed. Or maybe you just have a vehicle with very large side view mirrors that protrude. All of these things can be unique instances. And that is going to cause a lot of heartache for the customer. And they could complain too to the operator, especially if it's something that's attached to your car, like your mirrors, that what the heck if there was damage that happened. So
No one likes a damage claim. We want to avoid
no,
damage.
exactly. Damage claims, I'm here for you. So,
Yeah.
so one thing that you can do to deploy an artificial intelligence in this application is really setting up cameras so that you can, from a computer vision standpoint, an AI technique, can really see and identify are there are there objects that are protruding from the car that could get damaged, and then kick off an action as a result. That action might be a digital sign that says, stop, check your vehicle, something needs to be removed. It could be a communication to the equipment that maybe it is for something like the side view mirrors, like, oh, this is a larger vehicle. This part of the wash has to widen, or somebody has to intervene. But again, an action to prevent the damage from the first place.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. That was the dent detection. That's
Yeah.
all in the same realm,
Yes,
right?
and in fact, actually, a really cool example of that. Again, let's go on a field trip again.
Yep, we're back. We're back at the wash. We're back on the farm.
So this time we are in a beautiful field with wind turbines that are running. And we have a customer that uses our systems to create a solution that will protect the birds that are flying in the area. So I know, right? This object detection is really making sure they're detecting birds in flight that might be getting too close to the spinning turbines, and again, creates an action. Maybe it is to slow the blades so that there's less potential for impact. Maybe it is deploying something to deter the birds. It's a sound or something like that to change their path. But again, this is happening, this is deployed today where it's able to detect objects in real time and deploy actions to really prevent things that you don't want to happen.
So, and the same idea of scanning and then getting information then could prompt a call to action for your team, for your equipment, for your within the tunnel. So this idea of this pre-wash damage scan and dent detection, I'm so interested about that. Like, why would a car wash care if a car had a dent? So help me understand where we're going with that.
Back to your avoiding claims. We want to avoid damage claims.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's, again, it could be as simple as simple, there's a lot of technology behind it, but making sure you have those cameras before and after the tunnel so that you could do a scan of the car to see, was there damage inflicted or was that damage already existed? And the challenge here is the sophistication of the techniques to accurately identify those dents. But again, this is stuff that is being solved. So we actually have a partner called Data Monsters that we work with, and they have created a prototype. So they've solved this problem for a beverage manufacturer. So think about a beverage manufacturer that has all their aluminum cans, and they're going through and they're being processed and they're being filled. And as they're high speed going down the line, there's an AI vision solution that can monitor those cans and identify which of them have dents in them to potentially stop production, because there could be a reason that is causing the dents that they need to fix. But it's a challenging environment because these cans all have different colors and labels on them, so they're going to look different each time. They're metal, so they're reflective. They are filled with cold liquid, so there's typically condensation on them, so various levels of water. And if you think about that, that's awfully similar to a car. Lots of different colors. There's going to be different water, soil levels, dirt levels on them, different lighting conditions, reflective surfaces. So they've solved this challenge of how do you, with all of these variables, still identify accurately where those dents actually are. So then you can have that record and being able to share that with customers to avoid damage claims, or to own up and be that operator that if there is an issue, then you can directly resolve that.
this whole mission and this infusion of these big ideas, really, if we're thinking about painting this picture about where it could lead, it sounds like it's leading to a more efficient and an effective business model that, fill in this blank, is scalable.
Absolutely. And when you talk about efficiency, that's a great lead into the last example, too. And that is troubleshooting chatbots. I mean, think about today, think about how much in our everyday lives it's starting to be common to use chatbots and not just searching for things on the internet anymore, but using a chatbot to do so. And so a troubleshooting chatbot, the only difference there is this is trained specifically on your equipment, your environment, and it has all the deep knowledge and data that it needs to on your particular environment so that it can help troubleshoot when there's challenges. So, again, say you do have an equipment fail that happens and you don't have maintenance team on staff. So this troubleshooting chatbot is something that you could either type into or just speak into to say, wow, I suddenly my operation stopped. I'm observing these three things. There's this weird error code. What should I do next? And instead of having to go into the office, try to find the manual, which manual you need, what's going on, it can very quickly say, oh, this has happened before. This is typically the root cause is one of these two things. I'm going to walk you through the steps to figure out what's going on. And now you can get your operation up and running. And so it enables all of that power and that knowledge for somebody that is not necessarily going to be versed in all of that themselves to get things running, at least to bridge to when you can get maintenance teams there, but potentially to even remove the need for doing that. And so this is something that not just in the car wash industry, but this is very popular right now, that we're talking with a number of customers with, and actually are working with one of our partners, Big Vision. We created a demo that is just a chat bot that has knowledge about our computers. And so now it's this great resource. It demonstrates how it can be a resource for our systems and understand and querying and asking it questions. Again, how you could train it on whatever equipment that you need.
How do you approach diagnosing a site for what's possible? Do you physically go to a site? Is it a conversation? What would the experience look like and what should they expect for to get that initial diagnosis from specifically your team, or just if they were to enter this with anyone, but specifically with OnLogic? What does that diagnosis look like?
So it starts with a phone call or with a video meeting, right? And to have that conversation, to start understanding what are the key problems that they're trying to solve, and us to provide some insight as to how we might be able to go about that. And as we have this first conversation or two, that's when we can really distill, okay, what's that path forward? Do you need support on doing an analysis of really where to get started? Or do you have a particular use case in mind that we could potentially build out a proof of concept for? And so at that point, we'll have the conversations of, do you want to proceed? And if so, what does that look like? And depending on what that project is, sometimes it isn't on site. Sometimes we can go out, understand the operations better, especially when we're doing more strategic analysis, to understand really what's going on and to be able to provide those recommendations. But sometimes it's also can be done completely virtually as well. It really depends on the use case. But that's what happens, right? It's like a first conversation or two to really scope and understand what your objectives are, and if there's a fit and something that we can help with. And then we basically go on scoping and problem solving from there.
Sarah, any final thoughts? We want to make sure we're leaving our.
Kendra, I just want to know, are you fearing AI anymore? Or did.
No, I'm not. And in fact, I've started what I found I wasn't using it to maintain a dialogue. I was going at it sporadically. This was only recently that I started talking to it.
Mhm.
Right? But you're like, it doesn't sound weird, Kendra. That's the whole point. But like, I wanted it to get to know me a little bit more. Scary, yes. But in theory, the results now are so much more aligned with what I ultimately need. I don't have to pull anymore. It's just giving me. So it's scary, yes, but so much more fulfilling that I'm kind of giving it the space to do its thing, right? I'm like, listen, like this is what I need. Give me a little bit more context. So yeah, so it's been fun, but like anything, like riding a bike, I'll get better.
But and so I think that's perfect. I think that's what to think about of the parting thoughts here is keep your imagination open. Think about what are the challenges you're trying to solve and how might this be another piece, another tool that helps you get there. And then surround yourself with partners and colleagues that can help promote that innovation and think about what to do next. And we're happy to help. And so that again, a great resource really to start that journey is I would recommend folks checking out the carwashofthefuture.com and reaching out to us anytime, having an initial conversation. We're happy to do that and happy to help help you get started on your journey.
Love it. This was such a great conversation. Thanks so much, Sarah. It was so wonderful to talk to
It
you.
was a delight talking to you, Kendra. Thanks so much.